Hello, VIP member. I'm back. I'm back in San Francisco. Probably recognize behind me my old San Francisco apartment. So I'm back in my old place in San Francisco. I had an amazing trip in Southeast Asia. It was incredible. And of course, the best part was meeting Effortless English fans and Effortless English members, including a few VIP members. I met Intanzana in Malaysia. She's a VIP member. Fantastic person. And Kate, who's a VIP member. She's from Malaysia, but she's living in Singapore. And actually, I was lucky enough to meet Kate in both places. She came to our event in Kuala Lumpur, which was really fun. And then we saw her again in Singapore. So it was a fantastic, wonderful trip. Also met Panu. Panu's one of our great VIP members. And he was our first host, our first sponsor for our first event in Bangkok. And he did an amazing job. It was a great event. Everything was wonderful. It was fantastic. And so now I'm back, and it's time for our next VIP lesson. Now this lesson is about an important topic and an interesting topic. And this topic is something I have been studying recently. I've been reading a lot about this topic. It's something that I'm always thinking about. And the topic is mastery. Mastery. And the question I have is, how can we create mastery in any different topic or field or skill? For example, how does someone become a master golfer? I don't mean Tiger Woods. You know, there can only be one number one golfer in the world, of course. I mean, it's by definition, if you're number one, there can only be one of you. So I'm not talking, that's maybe requires something very, very special. But I believe that anybody, almost anybody, can become a master golfer. A master golfer is really any professional golfer. I mean, if someone's making money from playing golf, maybe they're playing in the PGA Tour or even some other tours around the world, that's a master golfer. They're world-class golfers. They're, better than 99.9% of golfers in the world. Those are master golfers. So how do those people become masters at golf? Or we can look at another sport, let's say football, soccer. We say soccer in America, football everywhere else. In football or soccer, how does someone become a master at soccer? Someone who can play at a professional level, for example. Or let's think of something besides sports. What about music? How does someone become a master guitar player, a master piano player? Or, of course, we can think of our topic, which is language. The first question, how did you become a master of your own language? How did I become a master of English when I was a baby, when I was a small child? And how do we become masters of a foreign language? For you, English as a foreign language. So it's an interesting question. And, I know a lot about language teaching and language learning. But recently, I have been interested in this more general topic of mastery. Because as I've been reading more and more about mastery, I realize that, of course, each of these areas is different. Soccer, football, baseball, music, piano, guitar, learning languages. That, there are specific things you must do in each of these areas. However, what I've also begun to learn is that there are some general strategies of learning and practice that produce mastery, and it doesn't matter. It works for any skill, any topic. So I began to see that, in fact, our brains have, certain ways for learning that work better. Our brains prefer to learn in certain ways. We learn faster, we gain skill faster and better when we practice in a certain way, when we learn in a certain way. And we go more slowly if we try other ways? So this is always the question I have, right, for anything is how can we get better results faster and enjoy it more? This is the question I always have when I'm teaching you. As a teacher, I'm thinking, how can I help you, especially my VIPs, learn more English, learn it faster, learn it more deeply, remember it longer, use it better, and enjoy the process more? That's always my goal. So that's why I've been reading like crazy on this trip, reading all these books about brain science, for example, all these studies and all these scientists who are studying our brains and how our brains work, how our brains create connections. And when we learn something new, what's happening in our brain? What's happening in our nervous system? And when we know what's happening, we know how all of this works, then we can look at, okay, how can we learn and practice in a way that helps our brain create connections better and faster so that we learn faster, we learn better, and we eventually perform better. Very interesting subject, very interesting topic. And let me tell you what I've learned, because I've learned some very interesting things that will hopefully help you improve the way you are learning with effortless English. Now, the number one strategy I have found, and it works for any topic, is that we must practice deeply with kanai. And that's that Tony Robbins word again. Kanai means constant and never-ending improvement. So let me talk about how we practice is very important. So, you know, in my email course, I talk about deep learning. You know, it's one of our rules, one of our 7 rules, deep learning. And in that email, and the video that goes with the email, mostly I'm talking about repetition, right? I say, learn a smaller amount of stuff, English, for example, but learn it very deeply. Repeat it a lot until you know it completely, until you understand it 100%. So in that email, I'm really emphasizing repetition. And guess what? Of course, that's important. It's important for any skill. If you're learning to play golf, guess what? You have to practice that golf swing again and again and again. You have to repeat that golf swing many, many times. If you're practicing tennis, you have to practice your basic tennis strokes and swings again and again and again and again. You repeat it thousands and tens of thousands of times. Any master tennis player has done this. And so with language, we must hear the most important, most common words and phrases and grammar and pronunciation again and again and again and again, thousands and tens of thousands of times. And of course, in the 7 Rules course, I tell you that one of the weaknesses of schools is not enough repetition. They go too fast. You know, you learn the past tense a little bit, you learn it, but then, you know, in a couple months later, they change and then they're focusing on the future, or then they're focusing on the present perfect. And you did not get enough repetition with the past tense. The past tense is important. It's probably the most common tense that we use in normal English conversation. So repetition, I really emphasize repetition a lot. All of you already know this. But I want to emphasize something else about deep practice, because repetition, just repetition, is not enough. And I've realized, after learning and doing this research the last few months, I've realized that I missed something. That I need to emphasize something else besides just a lot of repetition. Because just repeating again and again and again, it's great, but you have to have a couple other things if you really want to learn quickly and to really master English. And here's one of the important points. It's not just repeating a lot, it's how you repeat that is very important. When I talk about learn deeply or deep practice, the quality of